come in. Just give everybody a minute to get here before we
Absolutely.
get started. Um, so with with that being said, so how excited are you for Overwatch 2? I mean, this is, obviously, this is a question we could save till a little later on during the interview, but I'd like to, kind of talk about it just for the moment, like while we're waiting for people to come in, like I said.
So how excited am I? I'm not so sure I'm as excited as most people. I'm having a lot of fun with Overwatch 1, right? Like I know a lot of people complain about it. I have fun playing the game every day. So uh Overwatch 2 is going to be different. I think we should want it to be different. I don't think a lot of people like the way they're going about the difference in the 5v5, but I'm okay with it. I'm ready to try it out. I'm sure they're thinking about it. I'm sure it's going to be very different from what we're doing right now. I mean, still Overwatch, right? But probably tweaked and turned a little bit to go through the 5v5. So I think they'll do a good job. I think they know what they're doing. Probably don't hear that from many people either. But yeah, let's give it a try. Try it out. It's not going to be perfect at the start. It never is. They're going to change it a lot and keep it dynamic, right? So yeah, I'm good with it, man.
What about because one of the big elements that they're supposed to add to it, we'll see how big it becomes um, throughout the production and stuff, but is the PvP side of things. Are you interested in all in like the PvP element? Because some people really like the story mission arcade modes like Uprising and stuff like that when those events come out. Are you
Yeah,
ex-
I don't do any of that stuff. I just do the PvP stuff, man. That's all I'm doing.
Oh, okay, okay, cool. Because I'll be honest, yeah, I'm probably more excited for the PvE stuff. I think
Really? Okay.
yeah, yeah. Well, because I mean, if they do it right, the cinematic trailers, that they've put out over the years, and Codcode and I were talking about this. One thing Blizzard has never had a shortcoming um, on is definitely been in regards to their cinematics. I think their cinematics, everything from Diablo to StarCraft, was everything okay? Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
was one of my screens were was talking to me.
Oh, okay. um, everything from from Diablo to StarCraft, all that. I think they've done a wonderful job with storytelling and cinematics, music, um, production, voice acting, everything like that. So I'm excited to see what they do for storytelling. That's what interests me the most because it'll be that to me that'll be probably in some ways if you talk about controversial opinions I think that'll be more challenging because they've got their formula at least whether or not it checks and balances buffing nerfing all that stuff they've got their formula for what they want to do going into Overwatch 2 as far as PvP. How do you tell an engaging story that will get people to? You don't necessarily want to pull them away from PvP completely, but they're going to take a break from PvP to like go try the story missions to find out. I don't know, Reinhardt's origin or something like that. I mean, we saw part of that with the cinematic, but it'll definitely be interesting. Okay, so as I see that you have people coming in and I have people coming in, I want to take a moment and we'll backtrack just a second and we'll get officially started with the introduction here in just a moment. Um, so as always, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Yawning After Dark podcast. Obviously, we're at like 1 p.m. Eastern, so not necessarily after dark. Um, so I'm probably gonna have to think of an age change for these at some point. Um, but anyways, as always, we have an amazing guest on. We have Bame1, who I met through, I believe it was Forgiving. I want to say it was Forgiving is who I met you. I think he rated and the community is pretty interconnected at this point. So I'm pretty sure I met you through Forgiving, um, and I really liked um, you know Bame's attitude, his good outlook on everything, and of course us both being older gamers, the commonality of the games we played, which we're gonna definitely talk about. Um, it's definitely something that we'll try to keep it on content creation And of course, we'll talk about Overwatch, its primary game, which most of you all know him for. With that being said, I am not going to lie to you all. We will probably at some point start talking about older games, and somebody might have to mention something in chat to rein it back in. Um, just going to go ahead and throw that out there. So, as always with the podcast, especially from my end, everybody, while I always cherish and appreciate the subs, bits, follows, anything like that, I do have alerts muted during the interviews so that I can give the guests the undivided attention that they deserve. Um, so if I see you in chat talking or something like that, I do see what you're saying, and I appreciate you being here. But if I don't answer, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's like I said, I want to give the guests the undivided attention. They're showing, uh, you know, sincere commitment to coming on and doing this, and I want to show them that that respect that they absolutely deserve. So, with that being said, as I said, this is Bame1, and I'm going to hand it over to him just for a few moments to give him a chance to introduce himself, because as I've always said, nobody can introduce themselves better than the guest. So, Bame, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, sure thing. And then same thing. I think I have my alerts off, and I can read chat, but I probably won't reply to chat. So just FYI, guys. I know I like to talk to y'all. Um, and Yanni, thanks for interviewing me. I've watched, I think, a dozen of your interviews. Actually, you're a really good interviewer, and I
I
don't know if people
appreciate that,
realize
buddy.
how hard it is to interview people. I think it's a very it's a tough skill. I think Yanni and others that are good at it make it look easy, but I don't think it's easy at all. So good job.
Appreciate that.
And I appreciate it. Um, so Bame1, uh, uh, I guess in real life, I'm 42 years old. I've Uncle Mojo's popping off. I see.
Yeah, I
42
really do
years old.
appreciate that, buddy. I really, really do.
Love you, Uncle Mojo.
Yeah, that's testing the limits of me trying to. I really do appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much, Mojo. And
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and thank you by the way from everybody. And this doesn't go just for Bane. This goes for any guest. I really do appreciate you all coming over because one of the things that is the entire point of this is that for instance, I have Ben in chat right now. If Ben hasn't had a chance to meet you, this gives Ben a chance to meet you. And even though a lot of these communities have become more interconnected, especially as Overwatch has gone on in time, and people have gotten more and more familiar with each other, what is uh, what is kind of happened is that people still kind of stay in their own communities, and this gets a chance for people to perhaps meet somebody that they've never met before. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about Twitch is that we get to meet all these awesome people that because they live even a state away, we might not have had the chance to meet before. So it is really awesome to see you all here if you get a chance to come over, and vice versa. Everybody who's in my chat, definitely, I'm going to give him a shout out right now while he's finishing that up, and I'm sorry to interrupt. Um, Definitely check out Bame. Like I said, he's an amazing dude. So, sorry. I just want to.
It's all good, man. Um, Appreciate it. So back to introducing myself. Bame1, 42 years old, been gaming for a long time, and I'm sure you're gonna ask me a question about when did I first get into gaming. So I'll hold off on that. Uh, I'm a food scientist. I do research and development in the food industry. I've worked for the same giant company for 19 years. And I basically like make things more efficient, which actually I think
Okay.
kind of goes back to video games, right? Because video games are about using your resources efficiently, right? And um, so I think that kind of helps. My brain's a bit wired, I think, for that kind of stuff. So I've been streaming for I think 34 months.
Okay.
Um, I've streamed every day for 780 days. Um, I play a lot of Overwatch. I started playing Guild Wars 2. I've got
Oh, okay.
12.
Cool.
Yeah, I've got 12,000 hours in Guild Wars 2. I played a lot of World versus World. It's really fun. Northern Shiver Peaks. Um, yeah, that's the intro for now.
Okay. Well, for my own personal interest, I do want to take a step back. Normally, we start with you are right, what got you into playing video games and all that stuff, but the idea of food scientist sounds pretty awesome. So, what got you into that?
Yeah, so uh, high school was easy, right? And then I went to college, University of Wisconsin Madison, and first semester was good, second semester bad,
Hmm.
third semester bad. I almost got kicked out of college.
Hmm.
So there were only two, and I started out in engineering, right? I tried to be a
Okay.
chemical engineer. Um, at that point, there were only two majors that would get me out of college within 5 years, and it was bacteriology or food science. My dad owned a restaurant, so I picked food science. Like that's literally it, man.
Okay. Okay. But I mean, with engineering and food science, there is the more mathematical, scientific side of things. Obviously, food science is in the name, but so was that something that did have an interest to you in terms of the types of fields you were more inclined to go into, um, the sciences, the mathematics, as opposed to, let's say, the arts and stuff like that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I really wanted to do like a practical science, right?
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
food science nails that for sure, right? Like I can
Okay.
talk to Bame1 mom about what I do at work, right? And she can kind of understand what's going on, right? Opposed to like, astrophysics or whatever, right? Where it's like, I don't know,
Okay.
way far out there.
That's awesome. And so, with your dad owning a restaurant, did you work in the restaurant at all?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I
Okay.
worked there during the summers for lunch. It
Yo,
was
yeah,
great.
because I noticed if you guys actually go to Bame's channel, he does cooking, and it's always kind of, really interesting. So okay, so now we know kind of where you learn to cook and stuff like that. Um, and no, that's super awesome. And by the way, one of the skills that I think that like everybody should learn is cooking. There's a thing called a crock pot. You have no excuse. It makes even if you don't know how to cook, it makes it always seem like you do with the crock pot. You just look up a recipe, throw some stuff in, forget about it for like a couple hours, come back, and hey, you have a roast. Um,
And I like to think that me doing cookie streams helps people cook because I show them what I'm doing, right? Nothing fancy. I put links to my all the recipes on chat. I need to do an exclamation point menu at some point where I put
that's
all the things
awesome.
I've never cooked. I haven't done that yet, but yeah, just because I mean, come on, crock pots are great for gamers, right? You throw something in there, you go game for a couple hours, then you got a nice meal.
Well, yeah, and I've said this from time in memoriam practically, and that's that because um, my stepdad kind of taught me how to cook, and he was very very much into cooking and stuff like that. Used to make like fresh cinnamon rolls, strawberry preserves, all that stuff, and it no matter yeah I mean it's fun to go out to a restaurant. Listen, I'm not saying it's not fun to go out and get a pizza once in a while, but it really is, I think, in a lot of ways more satisfying once you learn to cook. You get to eat your own food, you get to put what goes in it and all that stuff. There's something special about cooking. For me personally, um, and maybe that's because I have a connection with it. Again because of my stepdad. But I always kind of like loved cooking. It was always a lot of fun. Um, and yeah, I agree with as Ben says, it tastes better. It seems like a lot of times as well. Um, okay, so going from kind of food science, and then you got started in your career. Um, you know, so now we get into video games, right? So you had this major part of your life that kind of carried over going into your career. And how big of a it might be a bit of a rhetorical question, but of course, we don't always assume that. How big of video games and how long, I guess, have video games been a part of your life?
Yeah, like a long time. I don't remember the first time I played a video game. Maybe I was like 4 or 5 years old in a tavern back in the days. They had um, I don't know those sit down like not Mario Pac Mans like sit down Pac Man games.
Yeah.
Remember those?
Remember they had the like you go to Pizza Hut or something, they'd have like the table almost, and you'd
That thing,
sit down. Yeah.
that
Eh,
thing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember playing that. Actually, Actually, my dad had video games at his bar restaurant. Actually, so I'm sure I plugged a quarter in those things as early as I could. Yeah, actually, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right.
I was,
Still, I think forever, man.
yeah.
So, and then like I remember I had an Atari 2600. That's the first thing I had at home, and played that a bit. But then like the first Nintendo, man, around 85 or something.
Mhm.
That was pretty PogChamp, man.
So,
And then played ever since then. I had Xboxes and PCs then forever.
so now I ask you, I get probably one of the tougher questions. What was your favorite system?
Uh oh, geez, that's yeah. I don't know. I mean, they're all like Nintendo was good because it was so new. I thought Super Nintendo was a really good upgrade from that. I thought Xbox or sorry, N64 was a decent upgrade. I thought Xbox was a really good upgrade, and then they've all kind of been the same since the 360. I think. Yeah, does that
Uh,
sound about right?
about I think we're getting to the point now where systems are more infrequent. It used to be
Yeah.
they would come out, much more. Um, it was much more. It almost seemed like serialized, right? They would come out like every 2 years or so. But I think technology is kind of hitting a point now where you can have a fairly decent, powerful system in terms of console, and it can last for 5, 6 years. Um, but it was we were talking about this the other day. It's always been kind of funny that back in the day where it was Sega versus Nintendo, who's the better company, who makes the better game, and then Sega ends up selling to Nintendo. Like we would not have thought that as kids that Sonic the Hedgehog would be owned by Mario. um, so it was kind of always a funny turn of events. Um, but with video games, like what was the particular draw? Do you remember of what kind of got you into them?
I mean, I had a lot of allergies as a kid growing up, right? So,
Okay.
so like being outside a lot was a bit rough, and even though I did still play a lot of basketball and stuff like in high school and all that, but I think that was a lot of it. I don't know, it was just fun to do. Like I
Okay.
didn't grow up in a big city or anything like that, right? So that had some of it too, I think. But I still went out and played outside and stuff, right?
Oh,
So I don't know, just killing time, enjoyed it.
no, and I completely understand. I'm sneezing right now as we know. But yeah, it's like I'm allergic to the sun. Um, what in particular though, what type of genre was, the bigger draw for you? So RPG, FPS. What games?
Yeah, so actually I got a couple that sitting right here. So
Yes,
Final Fantasy and Zelda, I really love those two guys on
right.
Nintendo. Um, I think those kind of games are really good because it's kind of I don't they're not sandbox yet really, right, but you can at least go around and it wasn't exactly linear and you could go and do stuff. I remember I was blown away that Zelda had two different games basically, right, where they kind of you can play it through it twice. I was like, oh my god, that's pretty crazy. And Final Fantasy was fun just because it was kind of grindy, I think, but I kind of like that. I don't know, it's kind of weird. I like those games at the start. Um, and then I got into sports games quite a bit, right? So Tecmo Super Bowl was
Yes.
PogChamp. I did have the original Tecmo Bowl, and I actually one thing I remember from that is I played with the Chicago Bears. I got over 100. I got over 100 points, and like the game crashed. I played so well, like Mike Singletary, so many interceptions. But Tecmo Bowl, this one was the Packers are actually good. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, and Brett Favre and Reggie White are on this guy, so I really enjoyed playing that thing. Um, so I played a lot of sports games. I think in my teens, and actually, so this one right here, NBA Hang Time. I would play this in high school with my buddy, and we were both really good, and the games are really close. And we would play this for hours on end. It was such a close game and like close competition. It was crazy.
Did you ever play the two sports games that I started out playing were NFL Blitz and what was it NBA Heat or whatever it was? Oh, what was it? The arcade game that was
Yeah,
very, yeah. It was NBA Heat, I think, right? Um,
NBA Jams, I think.
NBA Jam, yeah, yeah, not yeah.
Yeah.
Heat's
So Hang Time
game.
is Jams. It's just a newer version.
Okay, okay, I got you.
Yeah, same thing.
Um, I was thinking, was it he's heating up? Like the
Yeah,
the
he's
voice.
on fire.
Yeah.
No,
Uh,
that game was really awesome. It was just fun like that in Tecmo, and I didn't really get into the Mans until like Xbox era.
yeah, I think I don't think I played Madden for a very long time. I think the first full 3D sports game I played was the 2K series for Dreamcast came out.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so um, it was definitely quite a while going into it. Um, what could you tell us about? Because I know you again rhetorical. You had to have gone there. What was your experience with like the arcades and stuff like that? I need to reminisce with somebody about the arcades because you know these kids today.
Yeah, no, I definitely went to the arcade. I don't know if I like it costs money though, right? Like quarters and stuff.
Mhm.
So I think in general it's just easier to do Nintendo. So I did. There was a Nintendo in the town I grew up in, or there was an arcade in the town I grew up in. Went there a few times. It was fine. I don't know. It's easier to sit at home and play Nintendo though.
Well, I actually have a funny story about that. I've told this story before, but for those of you who haven't heard it, when I was little, I had older stepbrothers, and we would go to the arcades and stuff. Well, I didn't know, arcades would a lot of times have like if you had an arcade machine that was Mario, for instance, right? There would be the little preview of what the game was, and you'd have like Mario running through, and it'd say like press start, insert quarter, or insert coin, or something like that, and you'd have Mario run through, and it was just like a preview of the first level. And I was a little kid. I thought I was playing it. I didn't know that was a preview. I didn't have any concept of, economics and financial transaction and anything like that. So I thought I was playing it. And eventually, the youngest stepbrother, who was still my older brother, he eventually told me, he's like, "Dummy, you need to put in a quarter to play it." And I remember my parents, my mom and stepdad, were so upset with him. They're like, "We could have kept this going on for at least another 6 months, and he would have known about quarters and all that stuff." But what we used to do is there used to be this buffet restaurant that was in the mall in Indianapolis, and we would or one of the malls in Indianapolis, so we would go to it, and then the arcade was right next door. So of course we'd eat as quick as possible so that we could go to the arcade while my parents were sitting there and enjoying their food like humans. And so so we'd run, try to eat as quick as possible, or not really get much on our plate, and like run next door to the arcades. But yeah, I don't know, arcades were cool because it was almost like you're right, it was easier to stay at home and stuff, but arcades were almost like it goes back to that correlation, right, between that difference between cooking at home and eating out. It was almost more of an event of going to the arcade, going out and stuff like that. And it's also the first example of that I could think of you know PvP, if you will. Going out and playing against somebody in a sports game or a fighting game or something like that. You know, it's where I saw shit talking originate in video games. With something like somebody playing like Killer Instinct or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but with as consoles have kind of evolved and gone on, you know, I mean, do you is an older gamer, because I'm right there with you. Do you kind of reminisce about um, the games in the past, or are you happy with the way that they've evolved? Because there's some people that they'll say, well, games today, you pay $50 and then you got to pay another $30 for the DLC, and then you got to pay. Whereas, back in the day, you'd pay $60 for Final Fantasy VII, and the game before, people figured out how to speedrun it in 5 hours. The game was, 200 hours of gameplay. Um, do you think that games have kind of, you know, obviously graphics have improved, production quality has improved, but do you think that there's some things that have kind of gone on the decline, or are you happy with, pretty much all of it?
I don't like those game the gotcha games or the games that are they really want you to get all those DLCs. Like I kind of struggle with those a little bit, but just avoid them, right? If they're making money on those things, then go get them. But I don't enjoy those games. I see the scheme they're up to, and I'm not having it.
Right. um, what so I kind of, was talking about um, genres and systems and all that, but what about your favorite series? What's been a series that you've been so happy with over the years to kind of watch it evolve?
Oh, good question. Um, the NCAA football games are really good until they stopped making them because they didn't want to get sued. But those are fun to play every year. Um, the Blizzard games have been great, right? So I played a lot of StarCraft 1,
Okay.
um, and I played WoW, um, and now Overwatch, right? So I've been with Blizzard for a bit. Um, Final Fantasy got way too weird for me. I don't necessarily think I like dudes driving around in cars and stuff just gets weird to me, and not like Final Fantasy 1 at all. I guess. Um, I don't know. So I don't like. You seem to really be into like stories and stuff like that. Like I'm not so much into that, relatively. So I don't think I fall in love with series as much as some people. So
Oh, that's okay. I think, yeah, I mean, I definitely am a big proponent of good storytelling, but I think, you take series like, and some people would argue that, oh, the story's, amazing, it's fantastic. Games like, The Legend of Zelda, or a series, I should say, like The Legend of Zelda, I think it's an amazing, phenomenal series. I mean, one of the core aspects of gaming, especially with adventure action RPGs. Um, I think there's better stories out there. I think it's a very, you know, uh, what's the the mythos, the almost the King Arthur type, sword from the stone type of legend. But I think it's been very interesting to see how it's evolved from things like Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and Wind Waker, and I think it's been a very fascinating journey to see how things have kind of constantly evolved, which is why to this day that Mario and other things is why Nintendo's always kind of been one of the constant kings of the entertainment industry, especially with video games. Um, that being said, I am going to need a remake of Super Mario RPG at some point. Um,
I don't know. Like I really hated the second Zelda game, man. They screwed that one up, and I think I I stayed away from Zelda a bit after that. The Mario games are good. Actually, the Mario games like in the 3D one and all that up to that. I think I played a lot of those Mario games. I enjoyed that actually a lot at the start. Um, the new like I tried the Odyssey. Like I don't know. It just seems like what's the point? I don't know. I think my tastes in those kind of games have um, just kind of evolved away.
okay. Um, but I remember correctly, you have played and you are a fan of Goldeneye, correct?
Yes, I stopped. I should have talked about it. So this is my foray into FPS games, kind of. So this and
Okay,
Quake One
cool.
were
Good
about the same time.
transition.
So so this is when I was in college, freshman year, '97. This game was always being played with 4 people in my dorm room, like for at least 8 hours a day, every day. It was so fun to play, and I forget like all the intricacies, right? But like odd job. So we had to ban people, right? It was an odd
Odd
job
job.
because because he could just get headshots, man, so easy because he was short or something. Is that how it goes? I don't know.
Well, what
And,
what
and
people would do slappers only, and they would do license to kill. So for those of you who've never played the game before, slappers only was um, you could only use the melee, which was the this Austin Powers, you know, judo chop, yeah. And it in License to Kill was one hit with anything, melee, pistol, one hit would kill you. And Odd Job, I mean, you know, imagine, half the size of Torbjorn's hitbox, and and somebody would pick Odd Job and just, you'd be sitting there, running through a corridor or something, and all of a sudden you're dead. And as your character falls down, you see like running through like, and you never like you would have to actually like stare at the ground to be able to find the person playing Odd Job. So yeah, no, he got banned all the time.
That we had a buddy that was into proximity mines too. Those were so dirty. God damn. It was just some dirty fun stuff in that game. It was so fun.
Oh yeah,
Um, we played that a lot, and then but at the same time too, Quake One in 1997, like that was my first FPS game. And actually, if you're in my chat, I've got a link to a video,
sure.
explanation playing WASD. It actually talks about how WASD started. It didn't. So Quake One, when you played that game, they had you look up and down with your left hand and move with your right hand. Like
Okay.
that's the default controls. So like they had no one was playing with a mouse at the start of that thing, like hardly at all. So that video talks about kind of how it all started. Even Quake 2 didn't have default setting of WASD. Um, Although if you typed in like Thresh's name, you could get that. So that's why my keybinds are all effed up because I kind of figured them out myself, right? Um, but man, so Quake One, I played online. I played Capture the Flag, kind of an odd, like a lot of people talk about like deathmatch and stuff from Quake One. I played a Capture the Flag mod, which would be up to like 10v10 or maybe 12v12, and you would like run, get a flag, and cap it. But what was cool about it was there was a grappling hook in this mod. Now, not that three wave crap. So there's a three wave thing for Quake. I didn't like that. I played it was like a 3.14. Like it wasn't. It was just some kind of not mod with a number, but the university actually had the engineering guys had a server on our internet, and the University of Wisconsin back then was one of four colleges that had like experimental. They called it Internet 2, I believe. So I was getting this is 1997, mind you, right? So I was getting at one point I got a single digit ping number. I got a 9 ping on the server. Usually I was around like 20, and you're playing against people with like 300, 400, 500 ping on dial ups. Man, I was rolling those guys so hard. It was so fun, man. Oh god! Like I got to the point where I was like the last like year I played it, I was invincible. Like I couldn't be stopped. It was great.
I love that. The so these days when you're playing Overwatch and somebody's like, "Oh, dude, it's just a ping difference." You're like, "You have no idea
Yeah,
like what a ping difference is."
yeah. Like a low ping was like 150 and below was like 150 was a low ping, and then they called them LPBs and HPBs, low ping bastards and high ping bastards.
That's.
So the high ping bastards would be like 350 or something around there.
Did you guys have a team at the college for like?
No, there wasn't any. No,
Well,
like
I didn't mean
just
like a collegiate esports. I just didn't mean if like in the dorm or something, if you guys like formed a team or anything like
well,
that.
we had clans. We had clans
Yeah.
back then.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
my first clan was actually the Austin Powers clan, APC. So we all just have like a bind for like, mine was yeah, baby smashing, right? We just bind stuff like that. So yeah, actually my dorm room, our whole wing, we had like we could get 6 people on our wing to play to play together. And oh, you just hear like grenades like down our whole so this is back then when no one used headsets, right? I used speakers. I'll take Lansing speakers from 1997 with a huge subwoofer. So you just hear like grenades all down the wing of our hall because we're all playing Quake 1 together. It was so great. There'd be like 6 of us playing that.
There might be a phone call made today if that was happening. um
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um
We
no.
never got kicked out of the dorms for some reason, though. I don't know why.
That's awesome. Uh, I think with because one of the first games that I played online was Everquest. Um,
Oh, I played EverQuest also.
yeah, and to this day, probably still my favorite MMO. And I don't know if that's because it was the one that I started with, but it's got a special place in my heart. And I always the funny thing is, just the differences in, like trolling has always been a thing in games, right? um, and one of the things that used to happen in EverQuest, for those of you who have never played it, I think actually you can play it now and it's free. I think you can get on Steam for free. Um, but what used to happen is there was something called a mob train, and what would happen is a character was running through an area, certain enemies would aggro onto them, and these enemies were like fire ants mixed with killer bees. They would not stop until they chased your ass to the next zone. Well, certain times zones were intermingled in terms of you'd have an area that was like the northeast part was level 30 zone, the southwest part was like level 5 zone. And what would happen is there's no other word for it. These assholes from like the level 30 zone would be like running through, and they would pull all of the entire, northeastern hemisphere along with them, and they would bring it down to the level 5 zone, and they would go to the next zone, and now these mobs just aggro onto whatever's available. So now the person they were aggroed onto would disappear, and now they would just turn their attention to the level 5s, and it'd just be an absolute massacre. And but what people figured out was you can do that for fun. And there was a buff called Spirit of the Wolf, and it's what shamans in particular would do, and it like tripled your speed. So pretty much nothing would catch you, but it would still try to. It would still aggro onto you. So shamans in particular, being the specialist of bastards, they would put on Spirit of the Wolf, and if they were feeling particularly grumpy that day, they would just aggro everything in the area and then just dump it all in the newbie zone, and just like you sometimes you'd have to actually get moderators to come in and clean up. You know, yeah, I mean, because the funny thing is that you could see the incoming, the impending doom coming over the hill, because it'd be,
Train.
yeah, 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 because you would see, you know little human figure, over the hill, and then a bunch of fucking giants just following after them. You're sitting there, you just started up the game, you just got your subscription, you're killing frogs or whatever, and then all of a sudden, you see like 20 giants coming over the hill, and you're like, I guess I die, you know. Um, so there was a lot of stuff like that went on, um, but at the same time, it was so funny because of how memorable it was. I think one of the funniest things was there were some PvP elements to EverQuest, but in particular, there were a lot of PvP zones, meaning that if you were in town, you weren't necessarily in any danger of somebody attacking you. And even in uh, zones like questing zones, like you couldn't really PvP in labyrinths or anything like that. So like dungeons and raids and all that, you didn't really have the risk of somebody coming and PvPing. But in certain open world zones, there might be PvP arenas. But one of the funniest things to do is because I played a necromancer, is the necromancer's status effects would actually affect your screen. So, for instance, when they cast blind, your screen would actually go black. And what you could do is you could fear somebody and they'd run away, and you'd cast blind and their screen would go black. So uh, if somebody would um, you know try to mess with you or whatever, if you were near a cliff, you could blind them and fear them off the cliff. And by the time the blind wore off, it was like a Daffy Duck scenario, or Wile E. Coyote. They were running off the cliff, and as soon as the blind wore off, they saw themselves falling, off the cliff. It was
Okay, I gotta jump in here because I should have stopped you earlier. Okay, so what you guys don't understand about EverQuest is when you die, you respawn where you slept last, buck naked, no equipment, and you
Right.
lost experience. So you'd have to run back and get your body back to get your equipment, otherwise it'd be lost.
Yeah.
Um, so the game was hardcore. Now you're just talking about blindness. So I started out playing a barbarian, and barbarians like their trait is that they're already kind of blind, right? And then they
Right.
put them by this to get to like the other to experience anything outside of just the barbarian land. You had to go through this snow cavern, and it was dark as shit in there. You couldn't see nothing, and you would get destroyed by what was his name, Flippy? Oh god, dude, this game was so fucking hardcore, man. Oh,
Yeah. Well, there
and then
was.
okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say there was something similar. I played the Ixar,
Yep,
the lizard
yep.
race. And on their continent, they were kind of isolated, and I didn't know anything about, you know, because this is pulling from uh, old D&D stuff with different factions and all that stuff, and I didn't know anything about uh, the different relations that the different groups would have with each other. Well, the Ixar were the first the runes of Kunark was like the first DLC that came out for EverQuest, and the Ixar were the first additional race that came out. Well, their whole thing was that they were on their own isolated continent, but they had like basically kill on sight relations with everything in the world. And I didn't know anything about this. So, I would try to go to like a different continent or stuff, and the minute I tried to enter like a town or something, everybody tried to kill me. I was like, Jesus Christ.
The
Um,
faction system in EverQuest was so epic, man.
oh yeah.
I don't know, no other game I don't think has come close to doing that.
Yeah, I think it was one of the I think one of the coolest aspects of EverQuest that's really kind of lost on MMOs today. And don't get me wrong, I know why they did it. I know it's not very player base friendly to have you turn a corner and get raffle stomped by a dragon, right? It's not, surprise. But it really kind of made a special impact with the game that you had to be very cautious and prepared, in everywhere that you went because you didn't know what you were going to run into. Um,
And no maps, right? You could maybe print off a map from the internet, maybe, but like it was so like you didn't know where you're going. It was a new area. Like I had printed maps off the internet and like trying to figure out where to go and all this stuff.
right.
So hardcore, man.
And I always, I always appreciated as well that, uh, as far as the player base was concerned, um, I mean, I had a good experience with the player base, but I think that the player base was, I don't want to say more isolated. I don't want to say that they were elitist, but you know, they would help you, but you definitely um, you had to, I guess, respect, if that's the right word you want to use, like the people that ran the guilds and stuff like that. Um,
With Well, that's because you had to spawn camp stuff. Like
yeah,
there'd be things that would spawn like once a week at a random time for some epic quest. So you would have to spawn camp it. And man, even with the dragons in the third expansion, Belios,
hmm
like we would wake up in the morning and the Japanese guild, Azura, will just clean out all the fucking dragons, man. So we can't progress for the week. Like it was really hardcore with that. Like you really like there's a lot of social aspects to that game.
um, have you did you ever get a chance to fight the gods? Any of the
Yeah,
gods? Okay,
so the coolest ability in every video game ever was Kazakh Death Touch,
okay,
right? So you would have a raid of 40 people, I believe it was back then, and
right.
all 40 were important, right? So they would spend 2 days, 2 fucking days, 48 hours clearing the whole zone because every time Kazakh got aggroed, he killed someone, and everyone in the zone would aggro to them, and these are all huge mobs. So when you're fighting him, every 30 seconds he'd say a name from random and kill someone. So if he killed your main tank or like a couple of your healers, you're done. You like start over. It's so hardcore, man.
My favorite,
Bam!
my favorite, uh, bar none, was the Rogue God. For those of you who haven't played Everquest, the gods were kind of the in-game, dungeon stuff. But there was this rogue god that was, I can't remember if he was a gnome or a dwarf but I think it was a gnome. But he would basically backstab crit for like 30,000% increase or something like that. So, he's running around chasing everybody, and you're backing up because you can't turn your back to the asshole. And it was just like some of the funniest stuff. I remember also too, my favorite. I played a tank, but I think my favorite class, um, out of anything was because different races could only play, certain um, classes. But it was kind of funny because um, there was you know um, like I think it was like the ogres or whatever, orcs or whatever. No, was it the trolls? They could play like shamans and mage classes and all that stuff. You just have a
Yeah,
really tanky shaman or something. But
yeah,
my favorite were the monks.
yeah.
And in particular, um, the monks, because the monks had an ability called feign death, and it was the
Yep.
funniest shit ever. Because what happened is they would you would have them fighting something, and they would use feign death, and they would just drop, and there was kind of like I don't know, roll for initiative or however you want to say it, where the mob would like check to see if they were actually dead, and if they were actually dead, the mob, or if they registered as dead, the mob would move on. So this goes back to what I was talking about with the mob traits. Monks were another character that was a classic asshole of rounding up a bunch of mobs, and they would run to the newbie zone, and you would just see the monk go and just like fall down, and then the mobs would all aggro, and it was the funniest image in my head, just them pulling all the mobs and just like because that's literally what it is. They like stood up straight, and then they just and like fell completely flat on their back, and it was the funniest shit ever. Um, but maybe funnier to me because I was friends with monks, because the Ixar could only do what was it,
Yeah.
shaman, monk, necromancer, and I think
Warrior or something. They must have had warrior, I think, right?
so warrior, monk, shaman, necromancer, and death knight. That was all they could do. Um,
Bro, I could probably talk about EverQuest for like 3 hours, but I think I'll wrap it up with this one. So you've been calling people assholes. My main was a rogue, which is like a thief.
right.
Uh, Carner's Castle, dude. So Carter's Castle is this. It's a high level zone, max level zone. It's in the middle of like this big shitty area, right? So you'd have people that would run to like Carter's Castle and go in there as a for safety, right? Because they would think that the zone would be safe, right? Bro, I could pull the end boss of that map straight to the zone end. So as a thief or as a rogue, I could stealth all the way to him and not be seen. I could throw a dagger and then stealth and run straight to the zone end. And if there'd be a group of like 20 people trying to progress through the dungeon, they'd all just wipe. And then I think the end boss would stay at the zone end, so like they couldn't retrieve their corpses at all, or it'd be like a couple of hours to get their shit back. Oh god.
Oh my
I
god.
had so much fun doing that, dude.
So I that I absolutely love that, because I don't know, I just love the trolling aspect of that particular thing. I wanna give one story though,
Yeah,
real quick, and then we'll move on. My own personal. So
yeah.
in Kunark, the continent of the Ixar, their home city, which I can't remember, it might have been called Kunark. I can't remember at the time. Um, but actually, real quick, hang on. Let me get something before I tell that. I have something. Hang on, real quick.
Oh man, EverQuest is so trolly, dude. It is so good. I don't know what this guy's pulling out. He's got the same bunny outfit I do, by the way. It's the exact same one he got back there. Can't wait to see it. What do you got? What do you got over there? Yeah, the map, dude. Yep, yep. It's upside down, but
Oh, is
yeah,
it?
that's
Okay,
the.
hang on. There we go.
See, that's the other thing too. You had to make friends with druids, right? Or else you're taking a 45-minute boat ride from Butcher's Block to the main continent, man. Right? Like, bro, there were no waypoints back then, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have that too, dude.
the only thing you could do is you could get what was it, bind or whatever. You could get wizards or mages or whatever to bind you
Yeah,
to areas. Um,
yeah,
but what happened was in the home city of the Ixar, they had this race of like frog warriors, and I can't remember what they were called, but they eventually actually became a playable race. Um, but the storyline goes that the Ixar enslaved um, a lot of the different tribes of this particular these frog warriors, and there in the city there was an Ixar merchant who had one of these frog warriors enslaved, and this frog warrior would actually aggro on to players that walked by. And I remember starting this at level 1, walking to find out where I'm going, and I get mugged by a frog in the middle of an alleyway, and I'm just sitting there thinking, is this the game? Like I just get I just get the shit beat out of me by a frog? Like
yeah. Welcome to EverQuest, man. Have fun getting your body back.
yeah. Well, thankfully, since I was level 1, there was nothing really on it, but it was just so funny because it it was just so unexpected. Now, I think the frog was like level 1 or 2, so like once you level up for like, 20 seconds. I do want to add one thing too. I want to add one last thing. For those of you who have never played EverQuest and you think things are unfair today with games, there was literally a section of levels from, leveling up, I mean. There was a section of levels, I think it started at level 30 or 35. It was in the 30s, called the Hell levels.
Yeah.
There was no purpose for why they did this, but this is what they did. The designers literally made it to where when you died, as Bame said, you lost XP. During the Hell levels, again, I think it was like level 30 to 40, you when you died, you lost double or triple the XP that you normally lost, and when you level or when you killed something, you gained half the XP that you normally would. So what I'm saying is, if the average XP for a kill of your level was like, 100 XP, all of a sudden it became 50, and when you died, you lost 150. There was no point to it other than the fact that the designers just did it to be dicks. Like there was no point to it other than that. Like so
Okay, that reminds me of my last one, I think.
okay.
But I one time I was playing, we were doing raids, and I may have had a couple of beverages. I don't know. I woke up the next morning, I was naked, and I didn't know where the hell my body was. And I think we had to search for like 8 hours to try to find where the hell's my body. Of course, it's in the middle of this zone in, or no, like, or it's right underneath the boss. So I had to get like 2 monks to FD train it back to the. Oh god. And I lost a level too. I lost a whole level of EXP just dying at the zone in because I bound at the start of that zone in. So I would die and then get trained by ogres and then die again. So I lost a whole level of experience.
Yeah. And I remember at some point I had to get a moderator to help me get my body because I was new to the game and I had no idea what area I was supposed to be in, and there was something that was out of place and it was kind of glitched and stuck there, and I had to ask a moderator. It's like, I don't know how to get through here. It's like there's this red glowing skeleton in the middle of this area that just kicks my ass every time I come by. Moderator whispers me back. He's like, "Yeah, it's not supposed to be there." Like that's like level 45 in a level 3 zone. Um, and okay. Uh, as promised, I knew we were gonna be reminiscing about
Yeah.
games, but let's kind of take it back a little bit. And so we kind of talked about, what got you into in gaming, and we talked about some of the older games that you played and stuff like that. And we kind of previewed a little bit too, because Quake being on PC and all that stuff. Your PC gaming where it started. What got you into the idea of content creation, though?
Yes. So like I play a lot of video games, right? I was playing 40 hours of Guild Wars 2 a week, and still work also. So my buddy Racing, 0073 or 073, whatever his name is now, he's like, "Hey, you see this?" Yeah, I worked with him back then,
Hmm.
and he's like, or no, I didn't, not back then, but anyways, he's like, "Yo, do you see that this ninja guy's making millions playing video games?" He's like, "Dude, you play video games a lot. You should just put a camera on your face and talk a little bit and stream." I'm like, "Okay." So like that's like he just like, wow. I mean, that's, a lot of money can be made on Twitch, right? And I'm not saying I'm doing it for the money, but I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting, right? So let's just go for it. I play video games anyways, right? So let's put a camera on my face, play some music, and play games. See what happens.
Well, I think even in the aspect of you have a career obviously uh, out of gaming, um, that you definitely seem, from what I've gathered, that you definitely have an interest in, and you definitely enjoy the work that you do. Um, but I think it's a especially for those of us that have been playing video games, for since going into the, well, I was born in '89, so, but I'm still going to count it as the '80s, right? Even though I wouldn't have had any grasp of what I was playing. Um, uh, the the dream, right, to play video games and be able to make a living off of it, I think has always kind of been a fascination, right? Because when you know you were a teenager, when even when I was a teenager, it just wasn't a concept you really heard of. You would hear of people entering in tournaments and stuff, but a lot of times with like LAN party tournaments, it was everybody. There's 20 teams of five or something like that for like Halo or something, and everybody pays a $5 entry fee, and then it gets divvied up between like the first and second team at the end, stuff like that. But there really wasn't a concept of, I mean, what is it with Dota, or I mean Dota 2, like a $20 million prize pool for their main tournament or whatever. I mean, it's gotten to depths that I don't think that we ever originally foresaw getting to. And I think that that's part of the fascination is, with streaming and all that stuff. It's not necessarily, like you said, about the money in any way, shape, or form, but it's about the fact of, this was if you would have asked every little kid, we always talk about how kids are like, I want to be an astronaut or stuff like that. But I think a lot of kids would have been like, I would have wanted to be you know, a Power Ranger or play video games professionally, And I think that that's something that kind of, we get to go back to and have a fascination with it. And also, too, as we both know, there's a lot more to content creation than just playing the games. Because, you know, you're playing Overwatch. There's also, 5,000 other people playing Overwatch. What do you, and we can get to the actual depth of this question, or the answer to this question, in a little bit. But what do you as a content creator bring to the table that they don't bring, and vice versa? And so I always think that with content creation, there's multi layers that really attribute to a unique experience for each stream that you would go to, no matter what game they're playing or what category. Whether it's you watch all just chatting streamers or all Overwatch streamers. Um, but when you first got started and you hit that go live button, what was your first thought? What was your first experience?
Uh, so it was a long time ago, right? So I don't know if I remember the first experience, but I remember what I tried to do was I tried to improve my stream like every stream, right, for the
Hmm.
first like 2 months or something. So it might be just as simple as adding another panel to my panel, right, or um, changing a camera, or changing a it just something, right? I tried to change something every stream just to get a little bit better. So I started out doing that, and I think that helped, right? Just try to make progress, right? So what I encourage people to do is just stream, like just start doing it and try to improve it. It's never going to be perfect. It's always going to be a work in progress, probably, right? So
Hmm.
just go for it and try to make it better, man. So that's what I remember at the start. And I started streaming Guild Wars too, right?
Hmm.
So uh, like I already, it was easy to get affiliate because I had, I was in a big guild, right? So I could get, a lot of people, hey, drop me a follow, right, and hang out for a little bit if you want to. And I was splash my name around a little bit. But then, I remember I picked up one of my first mods that I didn't know before Twitch. He just come and hang out like in our stream and be like me racing and him just kind of shooting the shit, for hours on end when I played World versus World and Guild Wars 2. And then you just never expected to like get really good friends, and people that come back and hang out and just kind of grow from there. It was really kind of a weird experience. Like building a community, right? No, I don't. Does anyone, when they're just getting started, like say, "Oh, I want to build a community on Twitch," right? I think that's a lot what it is, right? It's not really just playing video games; it's building a whole community.
No, it is. Yeah. I mean, you become in a lot of ways, um, community organization becomes, I would argue, more important even than necessarily the game that you're playing because as I've said and I've talked with other people who've done this podcast at some point. I know that you love Overwatch, but at some point you might switch games. You might play something different. There might be Guild Wars 3 that come out and something that might pull your interest and you want to go away from Overwatch, but what stays with you is the community um, that you've built. And that comes from, organizing events. People do like watch parties, people do community days, all of that stuff, and hanging out and with your chat and talking with them about your personal experiences and stuff like that. And some people they don't want to share too much information, and I completely understand that. But I think that Twitch is I've kind of had to explain to people before. My aunt and uncle and various relatives are like, so what is Twitch? Why does somebody come to your channel or something like that. And it's I think the easiest way you can sum it up is it's TV you can interact with in a lot of ways, right? You can't stop. Um, I don't know. You want to take Game of Thrones or something. You can't pause it and then ask one of the actors, how their day was. But with Twitch, you can't pause the stream per se. But with Twitch, you can ask a streamer, especially with smaller streamers, you can ask them how the day was going. And I think that it's something that, if I would have had, and I don't know if you would feel the same way about this, but, if I would have had when I was younger, I would have greatly benefited from having, communities to be involved in um, because video games were not as popular. There was definitely the whole nerd culture thing where this group over here was playing sports, this group over here was playing like Magic the Gathering, and then you had people playing video games and stuff, and video games were kind of looked down upon. And it would have been really cool to have like a group of like-minded people who shared common interests and stuff. Um, but I like the idea that you're about self-improvement and continually improving the stream. Is that something that when it comes to new content creators, do you think that that's something they should focus on more than anything else? Is that gradual improvement?
Yeah, I think the first thing to focus on is just get started,
Right.
right? Start it and then try to improve upon it. I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, my stream's gonna be weird, scuffed." Bro, okay, like my screen is scuffed as hell right now. Okay, I got the Discord thing just kind of hanging out there, but it's fine, man. It's fine. I could do that better, in the future. But I think, yeah, just get going and have fun with it. I have a lot of fun with it. Streaming is the best part of my day every day, man. If you don't like streaming, stop it. But I think don't let the perfect stream stop you from starting. Right?
Well, and I think also too, don't let the and this is inevitable too, as you're alluding to. Don't let the the inevitability of an imperfect experience. Whether internet cuts out, you have the unfortunate experience of viewbot, of viewbots coming in, or you get your trolls and all that stuff. Don't let those experiences, hinder your enjoyment as well, because with anything in life, I mean, I worked retail for God's sakes. I mean, you're gonna have, bad days and good days. You're gonna have interesting people come to your work, if you will, and you just have to. It's a very valuable life lesson to kind of, I guess, learn to, manage stuff like that, and not to get hung up, as you said, on everything being perfect, which is something I'm still working on to this day. But it helps to have somebody kind of reaffirm that. Um, and
Yeah,
you're
the other thing is don't take shit from anyone. Like I just ban people. Like if someone's trolling, like they're gone. Like they're just some nerd on the internet, right? Just ban them. Couldn't give two fucks, right? Like where they say it was something bad about me or whatever. Like if they're ruining my vibe, they're gone. Easy. Like I people get hung up on what some kid on the internet said. Like who cares, right?
right,
Like
yeah.
move on. You're just some nerd. So I have that mentality, and like if they're being weird and stupid, you ask them to stop, or if they just come in guns a blazing right away, just ban them. A lot of people get hung up on, oh, this person said something in my stream. Now it's easy for me, where I'm an old man, probably doesn't give a shit about much anymore, right? But I think the advice works for everyone. Where just some nerd on the internet, ban him. He's never coming back again, right? Or if he does, ban him again, right?
Well, and as I've had to talk with people too, you could do everything in your power to treat somebody with respect and kindness, and they might just be like, "You play this type of music in a band, I don't like you." I mean, you're going to have people out there that don't like you for any reason. All right. I famous example I have, I had a friend, and his girlfriend at the time told him not to that she didn't want him hanging out with me anymore, and her reasoning was I was boring. That was it. Basically, I was in a band, and I wasn't much into partying. I just kind of liked to play bass, and that was it. I guess I was a bass player, so I was boring. But I like to just play the music, but I didn't go to the parties and party for entire weekends at a time, and that made me boring. And she apparently didn't like that. And you know, that was her qualification of a decent human being. Um, you know, uh, Turns out that she had some issues. Um, but yeah, I mean, you're gonna have people that don't like you for whatever reason, and it's best to not get hung up on it. And I think it's a valuable life lesson to learn now. Um, and as we get older, I think we take things less to heart in a lot of ways, or that's the hopeful eventual goal. I don't. I'd like to think that people in their 70s and 80s aren't, sitting around going, what'd they say about me on Facebook? Um, they might be. I don't know. I don't know. Um, but in 40 years, I'll get back to y'all on whether or not Facebook has got me riled up still. Um, but what about, because you mentioned something kind of interesting too, that Cod Code mentioned as well. And he talked about, he talked about like streaming 6 days a week in the beginning, streaming for long hours at a time. Do you think consistency in your schedule has also been a big part of you growing? Because you have done, whether that was the goal or not, you have done very well for yourself in terms of growing your community and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think a schedule is pretty important. I stick to a schedule. Uh, I stream every day, right? And then I try to get on early because I know I've got a lot of people that watch me from like UK or Europe. Um, so I try to get on around noonish on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I take a half day off of work every Friday so I can start streaming early.
Okay.
And then Monday through Thursday I stream at like 4 or 5 p.m. or so and go for 3 hours. So yeah, I think having a schedule helps too for sure to stay consistent. Yep.
Oh,
I give that advice to everyone. Yep.
one of the things that I've really appreciated too is I appreciate you putting out the YouTube, uh, well, the not necessarily the YouTube but the editorial stuff that you've been doing, like that you've been trying to learn stuff, and you were talking about on Twitter that you were learning editing and different things like that. Um, with that, is that one of the, in your opinion, more or perhaps even most enjoyable things about content creation from the technical side of things is learning, new things like editing, um, you know, creating different scenes for uh, your stream for OBS or Streamlabs, whichever you use. Do you enjoy that aspect of, I guess basically learning how to improve, not just with the goal of improving, but learning how to improve?
Uh, I'm gonna say I think so, and I'll say that because there's some people I know that go really crazy into scenes and transitions and all that. Like I don't, I really just like to stream and play video games. I don't get into that too much. YouTube's been kind of fun to kind of see like the metrics in YouTube are really interesting, just like Twitch too, right? Like from a business standpoint, they've got that the information is very clear and like they do a really good job with that. So that interests me more so than how to edit, right? So for editing, like I just kind of clip, the boring bits out. Maybe do something with volume. But that's all I'm doing really now on YouTube. Just find an interesting game and throw it on there. So I don't really get into that too much yet. It's kind of seems like kind of a pain in the ass at some point, to be honest. Like I kind of right now it's good enough for me. I mean, maybe if I didn't have a full time job, I'd get into it more. But right now, I'm kind of at that point. I'm good enough.
Now that kind of leads me into an interesting question that I get to ask you that I don't get to ask, a lot of other streamers that have been on. But um, uh, in the future, is streaming something that you think, past? Because I think you had talked about, that when you do retire, years from now, obviously, but when you do retire, kind of what you want to do is streaming something that you see doing, you know, past retirement and getting more involved into it.
Yeah. So like I'm pretty fortunate, right? Like I don't spend a lot of money and I do all right. So I'm 42 now. I've got it right now. I've got a clear path to retire at 50. So it's 8 years or 7 years, right? So I'll probably be streaming, I guess. I don't know. Um, so like so I'm in kind of a weird spot, right? I don't think there's a lot of other streamers that are kind of like that. Most of them are trying to be a full time streamer, perhaps, right? But I don't have to. So I don't know. Like I probably will still stream. Maybe I don't know. Like what I do when I retire, probably get into it maybe a little bit more hardcore or something. I don't know.
I
For
think
YouTube.
I think it creates an interesting dynamic that we have you on after Codco because he was kind of talking about the same thing where for him streaming is not, even though he's a partnered streamer, even though this is a source of income for him, he doesn't look at it as the full-time career path. And I kind of wonder, just kind of brainstorming here a little bit, I wonder if in a lot of ways that's not attributable to how you all have kept, not only having such good attitudes, but keeping the momentum going is not necessarily putting all this strain upon yourself with, it being, I must do this as a full-time job. I must do this as a full-time job. Um, do you think it gives you, I don't necessarily know if you would say an edge, but do you think that it does allow for some, we'll say leeway in how you go about streaming? Like you don't feel pressured if you got bored of Overwatch that you have to stream, because let's be honest here, we won't name names, but you're familiar with the Overwatch community. I'm familiar with the Overwatch community. We both know that there are probably some people that if they weren't doing it as a financial avenue, they probably wouldn't stream Overwatch. Um, but that's where their core audience is. Do you think that that gives you an edge, having this be more of the hobby side of things than the career?
Absolutely. Like it's much more relaxing. I mean, I actually hit that path to partner achievement about a year ago, 11 months ago. And I got rejected, right? And my numbers have been bad since then. Like if I was trying to make all my money off of Twitch, like I'd be in bits a bit, right? Like I'd be not in bits, but it'd be a lot more pressure and it'd be a lot more stressful. But I don't have that stress at all, right? So I think that I don't know if it's an edge, right? But it's definitely different though. And hey, if that's your hustle to do the Twitch thing, you're going all in. Like I don't go for it, man. It could be fun. Um, but I don't. I'm not a risk taker like that. I'm not a risk taker in my life, so I definitely like the stability of having my current job and then just streaming on the side for fun. It's a good way to go if you can do it.
What advice would you have for somebody that, because, this is always something that, kind of comes up in my head, and I don't always have the chance to ask people because, for a lot of streamers who are trying to go full time, as you said, they're younger, so they're, either in high school or college, um, and, they're going to school either part time or full time, um, but they're not necessarily juggling a career and streaming. What advice would you have for somebody that is in a career and is thinking of streaming?
That's in a career right now and wants to stream.
Yeah, so for instance, somebody, is gets out of college, as you had mentioned before about engineering. Somebody gets out of college, they go to be an engineer, um, and they decide one day, hey, the Switch thing looks like fun. Is there any advice you would give to somebody that's in their career already, but is thinking of streaming as a hobby?
Yes, absolutely. Stream. You should stream. And why is you get so many communication skills, right? Are very important in I think any job. Um, I think you really get to learn about communication and that's very broad. But you get to learn that through streaming, right? Because you got a camera on your face, you're talking to people. Um, who it like it's helpful. So like presentation skills, right, are kind of tough for a lot of people, right? A lot of people have fear of public speaking, perhaps, right? Like if you're streaming, like you're kind of getting away from that fear, right? And it it's made it's I think it's helped my career a bit where it's easier for me to talk to people in some cases just because like I'm streaming now, right? Like and I'm okay with public speaking, I guess, in general, but I think there's some good life lessons to be learned by streaming. So yes, absolutely stream. I think it's good to work on communication and get a little entrepreneurial too, right? Where you're, you know, hey, like I can stream and maybe market myself a little bit more, and I think that's a good skill to have also.
And I would add to that as well. One of the issues that I will admit, I'm still working on to this day for myself, but it's, self accountability. You know, you don't have, like when you go to school, right? In your elementary school, middle school, high school, right? Your parents are telling you to go to school. You've got teachers asking you about where's your homework, da 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 da. When it comes to things like, you know, and even in a job, people say that there's, oh, you're an adult and your job's not going to hold your hand, all that stuff. While true, your job is still going to ask you, hey, how's that project going? They're still going to send you emails. Here's the new schedule. Da, 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 da. When it comes to streaming, it's all you. All the accountability is on you, right? There's nobody. I mean, maybe your mods might, ask you, hey, when do you stream next, et cetera, et cetera. But realistically, the person making the schedule, the person coming up with the ideas, the person pushing you to keep streaming, ultimately it all falls on your shoulders. And that might seem like a daunting thing for a lot of people, but I think that level of accountability is something that, a lot of people, especially in this day and age, they need that self motivation thing because I think, when I worked, because I worked for a college for a bit. I don't know if you've heard me say that before, but I was working at a college as a tutor. One of the things that I would do as well is we would have the first year students come in, the freshmen, and we would have a discussion. They'd go and visit like the library. They'd go and visit like um, the language labs. They would go and visit the honors program, et cetera, et cetera. Well, they would come to the tutoring program, and we would talk. And what I would always try to tell them is, hey, listen, while you're here, it's not just about having good grades and going to your classes. Go ask if you're a psychology major, go ask your professor if they're working on a particular project and if you can get involved. And if you can't get involved now because you're a freshman, ask when you're a sophomore, ask when you're a junior, ask when you're a senior. If they say, you can't do that, try to become, a tutor. Try to get involved in any way, shape, or form where you can take your curriculum vitae or your resume and you can add that to it, being proactive to differentiate yourself between everybody else. And I think that, that level of self motivation, again, outside of streaming, you have to carry it forward because uh, things have become more and more competitive as time has gone on, even. And, the days of family businesses in a lot of ways are gone to the wayside. And, you have to find ways to differentiate yourself. And as you said, what we're kind of tacitly touching upon is what makes for better content creation and life in general is life experiences. You know, if you were to sit home all day and you never had a career, you'd never gone to college, you'd never, got involved in a Quake clan and played with friends, you wouldn't have these past stories, and we wouldn't have anything, to talk about for this interview. But also we wouldn't have anything to talk about on our streams either. Um,
Yeah, and I think like if you're gonna to go in for an interview, I would if I were to go in for I was a kid. I may not need to do that now, but if you're like a kid going in for an interview, I would definitely say that hey, I'm a Twitch streamer, and here's some very good personal benefits I get from streaming: communication, initiative, teamwork. I mean, what company doesn't want someone that practices that almost every day?
yeah, it's self
Right? I mean,
motivator.
those are exactly like huge skills that a company would look for that you can get practice on your stream.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and especially if you're doing anything, I mean, that would be applicable to a wide range of things, but especially if you're doing anything with business, media, marketing, anything like that. I would even say an education too, because it would show that you were, familiar with if you were like going wanting to be, um, get a degree in secondary education, with something like elementary school, middle school, high school, it would show that you were, familiar with what, was I don't want to say important, but what was going to be perhaps in the lives of your students and stuff like that. I think that that would be something interesting too. With that being said, I wouldn't want to tell my students that I was streaming. Like, if somebody comes to my chat and trolls and be like, all right, Sean, yeah, you're banned. You're in trouble on class on Monday. Um, but with content creation, kind of going back to that, what's been like the single thing that you've been the most proud of that you've improved upon?
I think just building a community, right? Like I said a while ago, like I never thought that would happen. And when you get those people that say, "Hey, you really cheered me up today,"
Yeah,
I'm glad you're streaming. Like, come on, that just melts my heart when I hear that, and I hear it way more than I ever expected. Right? I mean, that's makes you feel good.
no, I agree. I think it's one of the things that on the bad days, if you will, I think it's one of the things that keeps me going. I mean, I can't speak for you, but it sounds like the same. That when you're having a rough day at work or something like that, to come and hit up the go live button, everybody's like, man, I had a rough day at work. And even if you haven't said anything to your stream about what happened throughout your day, your stream coming on and saying, or in your chat coming into your stream and saying, we're really happy to see you, had a rough day at work, really glad to be here. And with that being said, let's kind of transition into the game that you primarily play, Overwatch, because I know we could talk all day
I
long about,
I
you
know
know.
you got some Overwatch questions for me, right?
No, actually, no, I do. I have quite a few. So we kind of talked in the beginning about Overwatch too, but focusing primarily on Overwatch, um, what is it that you enjoy the game? Because there are a lot of people now, if we're being completely, candid, there are a lot of people that are unhappy with the state of things. What is it that kind of, well, I guess let's start with what drew you into Overwatch.
Oh God. So I think some of my current mods played it.
Hmm.
So I think I found some people that played it, some friends on Twitch, and then they played it. And I had ended up buying it like when it first came out, and I thought the game was dog shit. It's because of Chocobots. She's in my chat now. But I watched them play it, and I'm like, oh, this game seems kind of fun. And then it's like, oh, I guess I bought it when it first came out. I didn't even remember buying it. But I was a Blizzard boy, anyways, right? So
Right.
I think I just started playing it. And I'm like, holy shit, this game is really fun. And also, like with that, like Guild Wars 2 was really monotonous the last like year or two I played it, right? So I was looking for something different. And then like as a streamer, like there's a lot of people, a lot of eyes on Overwatch, right? Compared to Guild Wars 2. I mean, Guild Wars 2 maybe has like 600 people watching it, where Overwatch has a couple thousand, you know? So I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a try. And I just really enjoyed it, man. Like it was just an easy transition to go in there and play it. Um, and then like my stream really grew fast because of it. Um, so that helped too, right? And then I don't know, I still really like it. I know a lot of people play it because they get the views, right? And when I play it, I get the most views also, but I just really thoroughly enjoy it. Um, I don't let SR dictate my happiness. I only have one account, and I stream all my comp games. I think someone could write a paper about my account and my streaming because I swear to God, my account's cursed. I've been low bronze for 2 years on my DPS. Like, I don't think I'm that bad at DPS, perhaps, but the matchmaking is god awful sometimes, or most of the time. I think I don't know, man. I just think my account's really weird, so I kind of like it. I'm not even gold on tank right now, man. I'm like 1800. It's been a
Okay.
rough couple like week or two. I don't know, man. But it's okay. Like I'm still itching to play it and having fun with it. I play a lot of ball. I love playing ball, but actually I usually flex queue and I'll play whatever. I don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
What season did you start?
God. Was it season 18? So it was around there. So okay, there's row queue, right? So I
Right.
started right before it went to row queue.
Okay.
So I think I did like my first placements like a season or two before row queue, and then I placed like silver or something, perhaps, right? Gold. And I was playing with a suboptimal settings, right? So I was playing in windowed full screen, like ultra, everything.
Uh, not
I lost SR, right? So when Roku came out, I placed at like 600, and that was like the second or third season I played, right? So then chat helped me fix my video settings, and I climbed on tank, right? Climbed to gold. Um, and support I've been to silver, but man, DPS, bro, I can't get out, dude. I'm in that hell. I can't get out. It's so
play
weird.
Torb. Take the
Yeah,
path.
I have been playing Torb. It's
Yeah,
been
play
working. My Torb's all right.
play the path of Sylvok. Um, so what? I mean, you primarily though, would you say? Because in my personal experience coming to your stream, I've seen you play the most of tank, and then second most support, and then third being DPS.
Yep.
Um, is that fair to say that you play tank more than any, even if you flex, like that you play tank the
Yeah.
most? Okay.
Yeah. Because it comes out on flex. If you flex, you're probably getting tank, right?
Okay. What
At least down where I'm at.
now coming from, especially coming from Quake, which was a very hectic, fast-paced, action, FPS. Looking at you, Railgun. Um,
Bro, I played at 135 FOV in Quake One. It's faster yet.
yeah, I I'm kind of curious because this is something I like to ask too. What drew you to the tank role? Because you take something like Ball or Reinhardt, because I know you play both those. Um, Even though I mean the characters are definitely vastly different from one another, but they're also vastly different from anything you would find in FPS. Overwatch is often called a MOBA FPS because it's got a lot of elements, from Dota, League of Legends, stuff like that, especially with ultimates and CC and abilities and stuff like that. So, what kind of drew you to the tank role?
The grappling hook in Quake One and the capture the flag mod that I played feels exactly like Hammond's hook.
Okay.
Same speed, same distance. So that hook feels natural to me on Hammond. And I think okay. So the other thing is I'm not like a team player. So even when I played World versus World in Guild Wars 2, like I would throw up my commander tag,
Hmm.
and if people followed me, they did. If not, like, but I would leave people in the dust, right? Like I'm going. I can do shit by myself. If I get 5 people follow me, even better yet. But that's that mentality I have when I play video games is I'm gonna go kind of havoc around myself. So that's where like ball fits that also for me. And also Guild Wars 2, like you don't need aim, right? But it's more movement based. So I think Hammond is more movement based also, right? So
Hmm.
I think Hammond just was a natural fit for a few reasons that are very unique to me.
Now you're.
But I don't mind other tanks now that I've been in that role, right? So I was actually in an SVB tournament playing with Masters people, and we won the tournament. I was basically playing Sigma, right? Sigma was okay for me also for some reason. My Sigma worked out with our team. I don't mind playing other things too. Like I'll play whatever, man.
Okay. What, just out of curiosity too, what in your opinion is the most unique? Because I have in my head my idea of what the answer is, but what's the most unique character in terms of tank?
Oh man, they're like all the characters. So that's what's so great about Overwatch is all the characters I think are very unique. I mean Reinhardt's probably like a tank because he's got that big shield. Orissa's probably like a tank. Like Hog kind of seems like a weird tank because he just kind of runs around, heals himself, shoots things. Ball's of course a unique tank because of the space he gives. Sigma seems traditionalish. I mean Ball or Hog I think are kind of weird tank characters in my opinion.
Yeah, well, especially Hog might be a little frustrating to play against sometimes because if you get hit with the hook and you're
Oh, dude, I get hooked so many times down there, man. It sucks because my hitbox is so gigantic. It sucks.
so um, especially if you're well, the hitbox for the hook itself is pretty massive. No pun intended, because I've interviewed forgiving the tank player, but it's a very forgiving ability. um, and but also, Hog's got essentially a blunderbuss for a gun. Um, and yeah, I guess actually it is a blunderbuss because it's just a bunch of shrapnel and stuff that he puts into it. Um, but yeah, the ability to one shot basically anything 200 HP or below is kind of, I guess, frustrating. Well, actually, you can one shot McCree too. So, um, but in being a tank player, majority perhaps tank player, what's your opinion now on the state of the game?
So I think it's fine. A lot of people bitch about Overwatch and like this is tuned, this isn't, this is overpowered. Like I'm more about playing the game. I'm not like a theory crafter like a lot of people are. I'm more of what are the rules, what is the current state of the game, and then like play to it. Right? Like I guess I maybe I have a platform, but like I can bitch about 225 hit points on McCree all day. I don't think it's going to change anything. And I, in fact, think that the devs know what they're doing and they do certain things and they know it's probably overtuned, but they go with it for a bit because they know they're going to change in a couple months and they're going to make the game fresh just by changing, tweaking things here and there. I think they do that on purpose um, to make the game fresh and they know people bitch, but they'll change it later, right? I think they honestly do that, and maybe they want people bitching about McCree's hit points because they're okay with it, and they'd rather have them not bitch about something else. Maybe I don't know.
Do you
I,
think
I just I don't get worked up in how the current state of the game is really.
so? Kind of going off that, and I'm not trying to play devil's advocate here, but genuine question. But so if let's take Sombra, right? One of the fun characters to play against if you're playing ball. If Sombra became hard meta, would you be okay if, like, you almost had to switch off of ball because they're going to have a Sombra every match and you're just going to get perma hacked? Are you okay with having? Because there's some people I think that they get very invested in a character, or character or two, and when those characters fall out in the meta, and I'm guilty of that as well. I love Winston and Ryan the most, and when they're out of the meta, it's very hard for me to bring myself to like want to play like Like Hog Zarya, I was not a fan. You know, because I've never really resonated with either of those characters. Um, Hog's Hog's kind of a mean character. I just, like you said, he's kind of the antithesis of what you would think for a tank. Zarya's a little more fun, um, but even then, it can, even then, it can be a little. Well, let's be honest here. Zarya's the DPS. She's the tank character for DPS players to play. That's what she is. She's the high damage, heavy tracking projectile. As her secondary. That's what she is. She's a carry character for DPS who want to play tank. Um, which is always kind of funny to me because DPS will complain about tanks, but then when you have a DP, I gotta go on a rant. I'm not gonna put you out there, but I'm gonna say this real quick. It's always funny to me how DPS players will complain about tanks, but when DPS players play tanks, who do they play? They don't play Winston, they don't play Rhine, they play Zarya, they
And
play
Hog.
Hog. Yeah, exactly, right? Those are the character or Sigma. Those are the characters that they play. Sometimes maybe a little bit of Orisa, but they're not playing Rhine in Winston, the traditional tanks of the game that are also, you know, the most, let's be honest here, the most team dependent, the most frustrating if you're not getting any resources, right? Uh, you know, it's it's definitely kind of always interesting how that works. The same thing with support. You get DPS because I think I'm just going to say it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to your chat and mine. I think DPS players have a tendency to complain the most about the state of the game, if I'm being honest. Um, and they'll also complain about
Did in queue all day, man.
yeah,
That's why.
that's fair, and I understand that, but um, I'm not saying that I necessarily disagree with them on some of their complaints. Like I think that in case of McCree, I think the 225 HP buff is weird. Or the 25 HP buff, I guess I should say. I think it's weird. I don't really understand it, and they've kind of taken a lot of the skill out of McCree in terms of him being a left-click hero, and they've turned him into a flash bang right-click hero, right? Winston or Ball or whoever gets in, or Rhine or whatever, and you just flash right click, roll right click. And you got a mercy pocket or discord orb on them, and you kind of delete the tank. It's not really the outplay of the tracer 1v1 versus McCree, like back in the old days. Um, and I don't agree with the Widow nerf and all that stuff. I think Widow should have 200 HP. I mean, whether she has 175 HP or 200 HP, there's still so many heroes in the game now, like Ball, who just stay on top and just she can't really do anything. She just kind of gets thrown around. Um, so I do understand the DPS frustrations, but again, I think it's funny because when they complain about like support being a broken role, who are the characters that they go play? They don't play Mercy. They don't play Lucio. They play Bap. They play Zen. They play characters again that they can frag out on and DPS on. I always think that's kind of funny. Um, although that being said, Bap is stupidly broken. Um, so what, in your opinion, you know, if there were to be changes kind of come, what in your opinion would you like to see?
So, like I said, I don't get hung up on the theory crafting piece of it so much, like a lot of people do. Like balls, I hope they don't nerf ball anymore because he's in
Right.
a rough state right now. Um, I mean, the obvious ones, like you said, like I've said, McCree and Bap, they're overtuned. Maybe they're overtuned for a reason. I don't know. I kind of it's like kind of like my PMA, right? Like I don't worry about things I can't control. I can't control who Blizzard buffs. If they nerf ball even more, I can't control that. I'll play someone else that I'll go play around her or something, right? So I'm more of if they nerf ball into an awful state, then I would play something else. Like I don't get hung up on that stuff, man.
Okay.
I don't know. That's how I am.
No,
I
no,
don't,
no, no,
I
no,
don't,
no.
I don't waste mental energy on things I can't control, man.
Right. No, I think no, I completely understand that. Um, that being said, if we're going from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2, and I know we talked about this at the very beginning, you said you're having a lot of fun with Overwatch 1, you're not really thinking about Overwatch 2. Um, but if they add new characters, which they're going to for Overwatch 2, just kind of brainstorming. I wouldn't even call it theory crafting, but just brainstorming. What characters would you like to see more of? Would you like to see more supports, more tanks, more DPS?
So I think one of the reasons they're doing 5v5 is so they don't have to make any more tanks, or maybe just one, right? Uh, Probably more support. Like DPS, like they're asking for problems, right? When they got all those DPS characters that are fun, and no wonder their queues are so long, right? Definitely could use more diversity in the tanks and support. So I'd definitely see more support characters. I don't know what they're gonna do. Like, I mean, that one person they're adding is like a railgun from Quake One. I think that's a good idea. That's a good weapon. Um,
I kind of like the idea they were having behind that, where after she hits, I think if I remember this correctly, she hits so many shots and it charges up to release like a burst ability. I think that's cool because that rewards you. I don't know how forgiving the hitbox is, but that rewards you for the skill of uh, being able to land your shots with the more powered up ability as opposed to, just, you know, press this button and you're instantly rewarded, right? I think it's cool. And that's not even, trying to be derogatory or negative towards certain heroes. I just personally, from my perspective, it's self-satisfying to know that I can get, like, if I were to use that character with the railgun, I could get so many shots so often with that powered up version of the railgun because I was popping off, you know, hitting the shots um, to charge it. So it's kind of like the satisfaction of, sleeping ulting Genji as Ana. You know,
yep,
I mean,
yep.
there's just a lot of satisfaction in that, right? Trying to think how to phrase this next question in particular, but you know, in terms of content, not just characters, but content, what would you like to see more of?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't done anything in like 2 years, right? So that's kind of a long time compared to other games competing against. I mean, even with the current maps they have right now, right? Like they could change some things, right? I think that'd be interesting. Put a door here, a wall there, perhaps. That would be, I think, relatively easy to do,
Well, that's what they're
and
gonna
it would
do in
freshen things up.
in Overwatch 2. That looked really cool. They're
Mm-hmm.
gonna have multiple pathways. So, for instance, the payload map, um, you might play one version of the payload map where it takes path A, and then the next time that you play that, it might take path B.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, that's a good idea.
yeah, so I do like that idea. And so long as, hear me out, Blizzard. All right, eye contact. As long as path A and path B are the same length. Don't do this thing where we get path A and it's like 3 times the length of path B that we have to push it, because that just seems like it would be very unbalanced, um, for no necessary reason. But you know, what do you think? I mean, what do you think in terms of the frustration that people kind of experience? You've kind of talked about how you personally view it, but with a lot of the frustrations, and there have been people that have left the game, or who don't play it anymore, or who don't um, stream it anymore. Do you think that um, their frustrations are, not all of them, obviously, we're not gonna generalize, but some of them. Do you think that their frustrations are, you know, um, have been validated, or do you think that in a lot of ways people's frustrations are kind of blown out of proportion?
Well, I think people are just kind of bored,
Okay.
right? Like it's not fun, so I think they're moving on to something that's fun. Um, and they haven't changed anything in a long time. So I think that's a legitimate frustration. Um, See, I think they're bored, to be honest.
Well, the game has been out for 6 years, 5 or 6 years now at this point.
Five, yeah.
So, it's understandable that things might have gotten a little stale.
See,
Um,
I've only been playing it for 2 years, so it's still maybe mildly fresh for me, right? So maybe
okay,
that's why I still enjoy it, you know?
yeah. Well, and also too, I think you know when you come in at a certain point and you didn't experience things like maybe I'm just throwing this out there, like goats or dive meta or stuff like that. You might not have that in your mindset to think about and compare. You can't compare goats to um, Zarya Hog meta, for instance, as a tank player if you didn't if you didn't play goats, right? If you didn't play one or the other. So I always think that's kind of an interesting dynamic. And I have to ask too, just out of my own personal curiosity, aside from Overwatch, what has been your most favorite game or series from Blizzard?
Uh, so I started playing StarCraft, and
Okay.
that was fun. I played Zerg. Me and my buddy
Oh,
won like 60 games in a row, and then lost one, and then beat those guys right away. Like we were really good. Um, I played WoW for like 7 years.
okay.
There's good lore there. Um, I don't know. I think in general I like the Blizzard universe. I'm not sure if I can pick, but like, and I also am not too into story and all that stuff. I don't really know much about a lot of the background of the Overwatch stuff too, relative to a lot of you guys. So, boy, I'm not doing a very good job answering this question, am
No, no,
I?
no, no, no. But I think it's interesting that you're kind of looking at things from a pure gameplay aspect because I think that sometimes from somebody like my perspective, sitting on the other side, I think that things do get. I don't necessarily know that I would say tainted, but I do think things sometimes get kind of confusing in the fact that like I don't want to separate like the Reinhardt cinematic, right? It puts a very you know, engaging attachment to the character, right? To watch that cinematic, and the stuff that he's gone through, and then as you play it, then you get stunned, flashed, booped, slept, antied, and die, and then you're like, I feel cheated, because you had that emotional investment in the character, and then you just get all the CC in the world and die, and it's like this doesn't feel like the buildup of the epic character from the cinematic. So it
See,
is.
I've never even seen that
Yeah,
cinematic. I don't know what it is.
I would recommend watching that one. I think it's
Okay.
a good cinematic. But it's interesting to have somebody that views it from the gameplay perspective purely. Um, Now, with that being said, going back into content creation because we kind of touched on this, but I do want to ask in a more explicit detail. Do you have any games going forward that you're like really excited for that aren't Blizzard related or
Um, so actually, Crowfall's dropping next month. If
what
you've
is
heard
it?
of that one, Crowfall. So
Hmm.
I in 2017 I gave him money. I think that's when I was looking for something different than Guild Wars 2, but uh, that looks kind of interesting. I haven't been keeping up with it. Just saw it flash up on Twitter, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going for shipping next month." So that seems kind of interesting. But like, dude, I think it'd be tough to be a content creator for like a big MMO, right?
Right.
Like, I don't think people want to watch you just grind rats right for hours on end.
Well,
So
there have been people that have made it though. There's people that grind RuneScape. There's people that grind. I mean, Soda Poppin, famous for and Asmongold's, famous for grinding. WoW. So I think it all depends. I think this harks back to playing what you want and what you enjoy. I just looked it up. It looked very old school MMO. So that definitely I'll put that down on the list of games. I'm kind of interested in was it New World or whatever. Um,
man, I tried the beta. It was just like kill 5 rats. Like
was okay. Well,
it seemed like it wouldn't have made it in 2020. or sorry, 2002.
Okay. Well,
It's just like
I will keep it on the wish list, and I'll definitely take a look at it more when it comes out. Um, okay, so I didn't get a chance to ask you this before the interview, but since we're getting close to almost to the 2 hour mark, time flies,
mhm,
right?
yeah,
Um, wanted to kind of get into the Q&A side of things. Are you okay with that? The question and answer from the audience, if you will?
sure.
Okay.
I think so.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so have questions from your chat, have questions from my chat. So anybody in my chat or Bame's chat, if you would like to ask any questions, feel free. As always, we keep it TOS appropriate. Don't mind memes, but you know, definitely want to keep it somewhat relevant. So we'll wait just a minute for people to type something in. Let's see here. See if anybody had anything. Sometimes my chat will ask something and then they'll leave. Okay, we won't name names. I won't put you. I do have a question. We won't name names. I don't want to put you out there like that. But as far as Overwatch players to watch streams, what role do you enjoy watching the most? Streamers.
Oh, that's a good question. Obviously ball, right? So if I could watch like a Yedo, for instance, or ball GDH, like just learning stuff from them and how they play at, and Beaver, right? I watch those guys quite a bit. Um, I watch mainly for roles that I probably want to get better at, right? So I've been just watching Stevo. Oh my god, he hung out in my chat. So he's a Symmetra player, and I thought
Right, right,
I
yeah.
didn't know anything about Symmetra. Man, Stevo whoops ass on Symmetra. It's a really fun character. So I've been watching him a lot more. Um,
Stevo
I
has
watch like
a. I just want to say this real quick for those of you who don't know. Stevo has a very famous video. Today you have top 500 players like rank one will get like 3 diamonds in their game, and they'll be like, "What is this matchmaking?" Stevo has a famous game where I think it was either on Route 66 or Anubis. I can't remember. But he was top. He queued up at like 6 in the morning or something. He was the only top 500, and then he had like 5 diamonds on his team. And it was the funniest thing ever. He won. They won the game. But it was just the matchmaking was hilarious. So
nice.
it's one of those things where I feel like, and I don't want to put words in Steve-O's mouth, but I definitely feel like I'll say for me personally, if I wasn't streaming, I definitely would be like, I definitely be grumbling a little bit. Nothing wrong with being diamond, but the matchmaking, you're talking about 1,000 SR difference. Um,
uh,
but
that's weird.
no, but that's awesome. So has that influenced you to play Symmetra?
I asked chat like, hey, who's a good Symmetra player? Because I kind of learned about how to like. I never knew that the beam it was so good on shields, right? So
Hmm.
I think it was kind of fun. So I just asked chat like, who's a good person to watch? And like I remember, it's funny. Like Steve was in my chat yesterday, so we were talking about this a bit. But like when I watch other streamers and they get Steve on their team, like they're like, oh no, it's Steve-O, right? Like he gets a lot of shit from a lot of people, man, because he just played Symmetra, right? It's really funny. But then you go to the stream, his stream's awesome. Like I love his stream.
Yeah.
He's really good actually and insightful.
OTPs get a lot of um, flack because because since you're playing in a game with metas, when their hero is off meta, it becomes no matter how good they are, it becomes very difficult for the team if they're at a distinct disadvantage. Now, 15 seasons ago, when people were still trying to make contenders and go pro and all that stuff in this game, I understand the frustration a little more. Now I take the COD code Silvox stance. If you're, screaming and raging, about one tricks in season 28, you know, 2000 or 29, whatever season we're in now, 2021 Overwatch, you probably need to reprioritize what you're doing, right? Oh, okay. I assume that they are from your chat, but I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, they have the Bame emote. Calavente, um, or Venti, if that's how you pronounce your name. I'm sorry if I mispronounce it. Do you feel comfortable in the Bame chair?
Yeah, I'm very comfortable actually. I got a weird setup, right? But
Hey, if it
yeah,
works,
no,
it
I'm super
works.
comfy, dude. Yeah, yeah. No, I when I graduated from college, I moved into a farmhouse, like kind of house sitting, I guess. It was a good deal. I paid barely nothing in rent. But it was like, oh, like Jesus, these people were damn near 100 years old that lived there, right? And then they went into nursing homes. So they had like 6 lazy boys. And, I didn't have any furniture, right? I'm just coming out of college. So I just found one that worked, and I'm using the same desk that I always had. It just works, man. It's not uncomfortable at all.
Well, hey, that's good. You got to play. I mean, if you're going to be streaming for hours upon end, you got to be comfortable in what you're doing. Doesn't explain why I'm wearing a bunny suit. Um,
I'm sure that's comfy. I know
no,
it's
actually,
comfy. I got the same one.
yeah, yeah, it's actually not bad at all. Like, that being said, it's hot as blazes out here. Um, uh, okay, so Calvinti, that one actually, that question, why did you become a food scientist? He actually answered that at the very beginning of the interview. So
So
that,
anyway, I was getting out of college in 5 years.
yeah, but that brings me into a segue. You can go. No, 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 no. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. I understand. But that brings me into a nice little segue where, if you would like, the podcast will be up for later viewing if you want to go back and watch it, and I always encourage people to do so. Especially, if you want to go back and watch the podcast we had the other day with Cod Code. For those of you who might not have saw it, it was another awesome podcast, and I also have a YouTube channel where I put these up, and definitely would recommend going through and watching those. Had podcasts with people such as Forgiving, Mushu, Holly Whirl, Unsalted Salt, just a plethora of amazing, amazing people. And yeah, so if you did miss the beginning of this, would definitely recommend checking it out. Okay, was there? I haven't checked your chat yet. Was there anybody that asked any questions in your chat?
No, my just kind of chilling.
Okay, cool. All right. Was there any more questions for Bame? Wait, just like I said, 1 minute for chat to catch up. Um, I do have one last question myself. Oh, Cod Code wants to know, what's the hamster behind you called?
Salmon, man. Right? It's the official Overwatch wrecking ball.
Oh, that's hilarious. I feel like that's like I feel like that's life size because I feel like Hammond's actually kind of bigger compared to like the size of the sphere, the wrecking ball. Um, Oh, I do have one last question. So somebody had actually said, I just want your thoughts about this. I know we talked about theory crafting, but this, humor and entertain this idea because this is more just for fun. That if Hammond could get demeched like Diva, just somebody. If we talked about it, like if Hamster had like, you know,
It does what, odd job slappers or
yeah,
what?
like almost was it like Lucio amp speed or something that's like running around jumping off the walls as Hamster till you get remeked. Like,
I'd give that a whirl. Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
you
Let's
know,
party.
he bites somebody's ankles and then gets mech back, like gets his charge back for being able to remech. Um no, I don't know. That would just be kind of fun. I didn't realize for the longest time how horrifying the hamster or the wrecking ball death animation is because it explodes and he shoots up in the air and just like lands, face down on the ground. I was like, oh,
Sad.
I feel okay. I feel kind of bad about this now in a way. Um, but all right, if anybody, oh, I see that Calvin Day actually had a question. Do you plan on expanding your Twitch viewer base?
Like I've started the YouTube about 3 months ago, so I think that may have helped. I don't know. Like I'm kind of good where my stream's at now, to be honest. Like if I get to apply for partner again, that's cool. If not, I don't really care. Um, no, I'm good, chilling. Like I'm not pushing, not doing subathons or anything. I'm good, chilling, having fun.
Okay, cool. Um, Last question I'll have: is there any major events coming up that we should know about? Um, Anything that you're going to be organizing or hosting or?
Well, I'm a streamer for Shoes Money Crew. We didn't talk about that at all yet, but
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that.
um, it's really cool. I'm just starting to learn about contenders. I've been on the team for a year, or in the organization. So some fun things happen. I think Friday something weird might happen, but that's just a teaser for now. Um, and then there might be something going on in June with some guys too. But I can't talk about that either. So I got a couple things coming up, but I don't know. Keep watching Twitter and the stream, and I'll let you know. But
Okay.
it's fun to do kind of fun things like that. So if I do know things, I'll let you know. But we're kind of working on some stuff. So it's fun to have like an org that's in T2 contenders and on EU, and then we almost got there in NA. So it's fun being kind of part of that community too. And there's lots of I've been casting some matches in Overwatch.
Oh, awesome.
I really enjoy that, by the way. Um, it's interesting. I've done a couple matches for SVB's tournament, and some other things too, and I'll probably be doing some more of that also. So I enjoy it. Like it's kind of weird because I don't know the game as well as a lot of other people, but can still it's a good way to learn more about the game, and it kind of pushes myself a bit too. So I've been liking that also.
Well, I'm excited. Do you have a link to the videos that are the matches that you shoutcasted for? Like, are they on your YouTube or?
I don't have them on YouTube. Yoshi, it's kind of on Yoshi's channel. I don't have them handy. I can maybe get you send me a message. I can let you know.
Okay, well, once you do that, I can link in Twitter, Discord, and all that stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, the people in my community and others can definitely see it because I'd be very interested in that. I'm kind of feel bad uh, that I missed out on it. Um, because I would definitely be interested in that. I think shoutcasting would be a lot of fun. Um, you know, don't have the opportunity to do it myself, but I do think it'd be a lot of fun. So,
It is, and you get to learn a lot too. So, like, because you have to really pay attention to the matchup, right? So it's a whole different perspective than just me derping around on my ball, right? Like, I think it'll help me like get better at the game. I think also.
okay. Yeah, I think, and it helps with, I would assume, going off of that, it helps with shot calling too, because you're being more vocal about what you're seeing and what's going on.
Yeah, I don't do too much. I need to do that more probably. Overwatch.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. It's okay. Just chilling, having fun in the game. We definitely need people like that in every community, and I greatly appreciate it.
That's
Um,
right.
okay, everybody. I think that is going to be it. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. So as always, huge shout out to my guest, Bame1. Again, let me put it in my chat for those of you who have not had a chance to meet this awesome dude. Please go follow him at Bame1 over at Twitch TV, of course. And do you also have your Twitter that you want to put in? Oh,
Uh
my chat here. Let me give you perms real quick. If you want to go ahead and link it.
oh shoot, do this. Sure. Yeah, Twitter's fun. I try to post a boop of the day, but they nerf boop so much. I don't get boops every day, man. But I post on Twitter when I go live on Overwatch. When I go live for the day, I post on my Discord, so just to keep people informed of when I'm going live. Stream every day.
Okay.
Ronnie, good interview, man. I liked it. You did a good job as always. I've watched a dozen of your interviews. You do a good job. So thank you for inviting me. I had fun. It's talk about stuff. It's fun talking about EverQuest, man. Those it's hard to find people that you can talk to about that these days.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I absolutely love it. Okay, actually, Calvidea, one last question. Why the only drink that you consume is beer?
I drink water too, man. Come on.
Uh,
No, we're just chilling, man. Having fun, relaxing.
no, what beer do you normally drink?
Bud Select, yeah,
Okay, cool. My
it's good.
uncle, my
Tasty.
uncle, my uncle would approve. I've been drinking like
Good.
these amino energy drinks. I'm gonna end up getting addicted to those. I'm not even a caffeine person, but Um, everybody's got their G Fuel sponsorship,
Yep.
so I'm gonna
Yep.
try to work my way to an amino energy electrolyte sponsor. That's way too many. That's way too many words. But yeah, I mean, this has been an awesome experience. As I've been very blessed that all of them have been incredible to get to meet new people, and even the people that I've met before. We get to talk and do these interviews, and I always have the opportunity to learn a lot myself. Because there was a lot of stuff I didn't know. I didn't know that you played EverQuest. I didn't know what got you into food science, what got you into content creation. I didn't know any of that. So these are always fun learning opportunities for me as well. Um, and as always, you all can find the VODs on the Twitch channel. Bame's going to have his part of the VOD or his end of the VOD up as well, I assume, for a while. And then I'll be putting these up next week, next Saturday on YouTube, which if you hit exclamation point YouTube on my channel in chat, you will find a link to the YouTube. Um, and yeah, this has been awesome. So I'm finally glad that we got to do this. It was a lot of fun. And was there anything kind of closing thoughts that you had going out?
I'm good. I'm just ready to play some Overwatch now, man. Just relax a little bit for the
Pog.
evening.
Okay. And you said, are you going to stream now Overwatch?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my chat over your way. We're going to
Oh,
send it
cool.
right over your way. So with that being said, thank you all so much for the questions. Thank you so much for everybody that stopped by from Bame's channel. Thank you, tremendously to Mojo for the gifted subs at the beginning. That was
Yeah.
friggin' insane. I really appreciate that. Much love, buddy. And I definitely didn't forget about it. Like I said, I just want to make sure that I dedicate my attention to the guests for, to show them the respect they deserve for coming on here. But I really, really do appreciate that. That is absolutely friggin' nuts, and much love. So really, really do appreciate it. Thank you all so much again for doing this. We're gonna go ahead and hit oh, that raid for Bame. And just to tell you all real quick, coming up next week on Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are going to have Guru Lols coming on.
Guru.
And
It's
then,
just Guru. It's just Guru now.
is it just Guru? Okay, I knew
Yeah.
him. Yeah, I
Yeah.
knew him as Guru Lols. We're going to have Guru coming on. And
He
then,
actually has a coveted the Bame Gang koozie, by the way. There's not many of those out there in the
does
wild.
he?
So
Okay, awesome. I will ask him about that. Remind me. I'll have to ask him about that. And
yeah.
then on Sunday next week, we will be having Pavel the Snail. Will be coming up, who is also a part of COD Code Stream Team, and it's a really really awesome positive dude in the Overwatch community. So that'll be exciting. As always, thank you all so much again. I know I said it a million times, but saying it a million more still can't be enough. Thank you all so much for everything. You all are amazing. Gonna send everybody over to Bame, so stick around. And yeah, much love, everybody. And we will catch you all next time on the next episode of the podcast or next time I stream. So much love, everybody. You all have a good one, and we'll catch you later. Bye, everybody.
Yep. Thanks. Yep. See you, man. Appreciate it. See ya.
All right. Thanks so much, buddy. I appreciate you.
Yep.
Have a good stream.
Yeah. You too. Or yeah. Take care.
Later, buddy.